Hey everybody, hope you had a great trading day. So, we got a lot to go over today. We had a lot of really big movers. Some of these are already hitting resistance points. Some of them look like they're going to blow right through them like butter. I mean, it's just crazy. It really is just a staggering day as far as a move. But let's just jump right into it here. And the first one I really want to go over is AMC. Now, what you're going to see here is I don't know that you're ready for prime time yet, but you are above what? You are above the 8 and the 21, which is the first time that you are above and close above them on a green bar since here, right? And since then, you haven't really done it since here. So let me just show you what's going on here so you can really look at this. Okay. You have a trend line right here. And we're going to get rid of all these others, horizontal lines. You have your trend line here, but look right where you closed. Okay. So you weren't able to go here. You weren't able to close above it. You weren't able to close above it. You weren't able to get, you opened below it, right? Bounced, formed that little morning star, and now you're here. So this is a pretty simple trade. If you get above that 37.93, and you get to that level where you're looking at, 38, you should be looking at this. This could push and finally get over this little hump here and run back up to this level. So it has the possibility to get back to 46 3/4 pretty quickly too. Now let's just look at that. Now let me just put these back in. Okay. So really you're going to have some resistance at this 43. But this area right up here, 46.5, is where you could get to. And all you're really looking for is to get through 38, because if you close below this, right, this 37 level, then you know that you really want to be out of it. You know that you really have no interest in being in the position. So definitely keep your eye on this. I do think it's getting ready to do something. AMD, we actually, for those that aren't members of the community, we actually added it to the newsletter today around 107. It looks like we're at like 109 right now. So let's just take a look at this. There's your wedge line. When we broke the wedge line right here, okay, that's what I was really looking for. And we got above what? We got above the 8 and we got above the 21. And we just followed through with what NVIDIA was doing. And NVIDIA set the tone today. I mean, that was pretty clear who set the tone. We're going to get to NVIDIA in a little bit. The question is, what do you do with this? Well, let's take a look at something so you can kind of see where my head is. This is a cup. Okay, let's get rid of these. This is a cup. And then you broke out of the cup. Okay, and these are not always perfect. But now I have a bull flag here that's also forming what? A handle. Okay, so technically the way that I'm looking at this is if I view this as a cup and a handle, okay, then I'm basically setting up to break out here. Okay, and I'm already giving you signs that the probability of me breaking out on the weekly are greater. Why are the probability of me breaking out on the week greater? Because the daily I'm already out, right? So now you just have to see how the week goes. But you want to look for some confirmation, get above that level, which I think could happen as early as tomorrow, frankly. These things are they've just been on fire, absolute fire. So, it's just crazy. Let's just keep going. So, CARA, I just, want to go over this very quickly. You came out and you got your FDA approval. Everybody's been waiting for this and waiting for this. Look, this stock went from $25 all the way down to 14, right? And then sold down more. Everybody puked it out, right? $12. I guess this is where they thought that it wasn't going to happen. That's also, not really an earnings event there, right? So this must be where they all thought that it wasn't going to go through. Now it's going through. We're at 18. So something's not adding up here. Something's not adding up. This should be up either a lot more or people that are going through the documentation of the FDA and what they're approved for, it might be in a limiting scope. I really don't know. I haven't read the data yet. I haven't really looked at it. There's too many companies that came out tonight with earnings and too many setups that I haven't gone through all my research yet. But I will tell you this. I find the muted move should be concerning. If you can't get above the first 1 minute bar, which you have not been able to do yet, let me just show you this. Okay, so you have not been able to get above this yet. Okay, if you can't get above this, you're going to have an issue tomorrow. So just keep that in mind. Now you've tested this, and I've walked through this before. You always want to look at the first bar, just see how it does. Okay, and you can see pretty clearly how we're doing here. So you're in that range. So there's really no reason to do anything here with it. But if you break 19 and you want to give it a shot, you can here. The 1709 level, there's nothing really crazy to do there. Just see how it plays out. It did try to break that level a couple times and was unsuccessful. So maybe they'll have some support there. CFLT. So this is a really good example of waiting to see and watching where you close. So this one we were talking about and watched before. You broke this wedge line, open below it, right? Gap down, then go. And you run and everybody gets all excited, but you have this huge wick here. So all that really was price rejection. All that happened in here was people sold, right? They continued to follow this pattern over here. That's right over here. And they sold. There's nothing more to it. There's literally nothing to do here. So you at least have to get above this 55 3/4 before you even think of doing anything with CFLT. And there's not really much to go over there. I mean, it rejected and that's the end of it. So this one's very interesting to me, CRBU, and it's a newer issue. And so people know when we start looking at newer issues, what do? We tend to want to look at least 30 data points. So let's just go to an hourly on this, and let's look at an hourly and see what that tells us. Now, you have a trend line right here, okay? $29, it looks like you're coming in down here, right? You're gonna hold, and then you're gonna run, right? So you are holding that level, and you can use that level as support, okay? So you're really looking for that CRBU level to hold that $29 level. Now, if you go here, and just put that in perspective, you can kind of see where that can take you to, right? Getting above that and keep going. But look, and just keep this in mind when you're playing it, okay? You have this huge trend line up here, okay? So, I mean, you have a really big trend line in here you can get to. And I don't see any reason why you can't do it. So that would put you at, let's just open this up a little bit more. That would put you at $36 roughly. So I like this. I like this trade a lot. So let's see how that plays out. But I do like the idea. We just have to see how it moves. Docs was one that was actually in the top 10 list on stocks for the week. And it did pretty much exactly what we thought it would do, right? I didn't expect it to gap up so much, but we were looking for a gap up right around here. You just gapped and it just went straight up. I mean, it was just a huge move. But you got right to the top of that channel and then you stopped. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us it might need some more work to do. And we could throw in some of the indicators here, but kind of irrelevant. What's really relevant is that the volume was above average. Okay, so that's really where your focus needs to be. But in regards to this, what do we do with this? This is not something that I need to be overly involved in or be jumping into at this point. You're just better off just leaving it alone. Let it flip that channel. Let it flip this line here before you do anything. When it got to that line today, it clearly rejected. So we all can see where this is, right? So here, look at this from a 15-minute chart. Okay. So here you are. Right, and here's your rejection. We can get rid of these indicators. They're not really relevant. So here's your rejection, and you come back down here, right? So here's your evening star. You try to get back over the evening star. What happens again at the end of the day? You reject again. it's not something I want to be jumping into, right? Now, you could flip it tomorrow morning and run, but anything can happen. But this is telling you that you have an issue. So I tend to listen to that, and I would not be a buyer of this up here. So, a matter of fact, in the community, we were even talking about it, and I was trying to be pretty blunt and going, well, you got your move, right? You wanted it to break here. You got your 10 points. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for it to flip and see where it goes, and maybe it does. Maybe that does happen, but is it worth the risk? I don't think it is. So that's how I would have played that. But now I would not touch this until it flips that level. A lot of people that don't know how to draw these upper channel lines are going to be looking at stuff like this and going, oh, it's broken the flag, and not understanding that it just ran right into a resistance. So just FYI, always look for these upper channel lines. They're substantial. So Ford continues to sell down. I got a lot of requests to look at it. This is what I would say. Maybe it's done. I don't think so. I don't think it's done. I'm not getting one strong up bar. I got one in like a month, right? Here. I got one in a month that looked like it was going to go. I have this hammer that held, but that's it. That's all I have. So I don't really have a ringing endorsement here that makes me think I have to jump into this right now. I wanted to cover this because I got asked a lot about it. So I still think that you're heading down to this 200-day moving average. And I know people sold Tesla today, at one point on the news that they're doubling capacity or doubling production, I should say, of the F-150. Well, that really shouldn't come as a surprise. I mean, I think they were up to about 2 months ago when we were talking about this, they were up to 200,000 pre-orders. I mean, the number one selling EV is going to be this Ford F-150. I mean, that's pretty clear. I would think that that's pretty clear to everybody. Now, the person that's buying the Ford F-150 is not the same customer that's buying a Tesla, right? They're completely different people. But if you need a new work truck or you own a fleet of trucks and you look at that new Ford F-150, you want that. There's a lot to that truck. I mean, you think about it. Contractors don't need generators anymore. There's $5,000 that they're saving. When you start really going through what that truck has to offer somebody, it's a lot. And I think you're going to see a lot of fleets step up and purchase it. And, there's probably tax credits, all kinds of things that, the tax breaks, everything. So, but I still think it can sell down. It's interesting. I was asked about this one a lot, so I'm just going to cover it. We broke down on really what I thought were okay earnings. And we have been unable to get above this 183.97 level. And I've been watching it, and we're just unable to get above it. So as long as we're unable to get above that level, that 184, I have no interest. I know that people are going to say, hey, that's 20 points. Good, go for it. That's not my kind of trade. This is very clearly rejection. To me, this could flip at any moment. The first sign of rejection, we can't even close above the 8-day. So if you really are heck bent on owning this, I was going to say earning it. If you're heck bent on owning this, here's what you could do. You could do a really simple trade, right? So you see this 5 and the 8. Wait for them to cross. Wait for the 5 to cross the 8 to the upside, and then you could put the trade on if you really are, heck bent on it. I'm trying to clean my language up. And then just use this low of this inverted hammer as your stop, right? So then you're probably, by the time this happens, and if the stock goes flat, right, the 5-day is going to go flat. Well, if that happens, then you get one little uptick, you're going to cross, right? I mean, it's not rocket science what we're looking for here, but you're looking for some sense of basing and then uptick. And I would wait until at least you have that, and then I would use this as my low. And I don't think it's going to be too high before that happens. So GDLC, I've been talking about this, and it just keeps outperforming, Bitcoin. It keeps outperforming all of them, frankly. So again, I don't have a list of what's in the holdings to go through, but Grayscale Digital, large cap fund, you can just go to the website and find it out. But the one level that we were looking for it to break today, and it did. And this is what I'm talking about when you're looking for strength, right? And you want to see where the money's going. Okay, this is where the money's going. Okay, 49.80, and then we break out and we run, and then what do? We just go, we rip. and now you're through this 51.77, which was a short-term double top. You rip through it. Look where you closed. You closed at an all-time high. Okay, so that is setting you up for a much larger move here. And now you have this cup. So you might come up here, trickle down, form a handle. We're going to have to see and watch. But if you're still in this, stay in this. This is setting up for a really big move. If you flip this, if you flip the cup, right, and then you form the handle, you can essentially count the move from the low of here. And, there's roughly 30 points there. So just figuring it out, you could say there's a 67% move on the other side, right? So you just inverse this, but you don't do it on a points basis. You do it on a percentage basis because obviously the points are different. You come down here and you drop 10 points. That's a lot different than dropping 10 points from here, obviously. You drop 10 points from 20, it's 50%. You drop from here, it's 20%. So, you get it. You understand that. So, you look at the percentages, not the points. Anyway, I think you should be looking at this still. I hate to laugh, but it's just been a monster. And look at this. Like, this is what you want to invest in, okay? I come in, it gaps open and runs. I come in again, it gaps open and runs. That means you have so much demand for whatever the heck is in this that they are just gapping and going. And when you see that compared to something like this, where you've already had that action, which you have had, this is going to rip, right? This will get to a point where you're going to have some type of exhaustive move to the upside. That's going to be something that people can't believe that they see. It's going to be one of those kinds of wacky moves. And there's two kinds of channels that are going on in this. And this is worth our time to look at these, okay? So this is your first channel, right? And we could say this is drawn like crap because I'm going through this. So, but I think that this channel is much more important than this channel, okay? So I'm not going to get into why right now, but just we tried to get over it. We were unable to get over the channel. This is where you're at. So just off the rip, this could go to 70, okay? Now you have one here that technicians might say, yes, this is there, okay? That could run into an issue, and that gets you to 60. So no matter what you're looking at, you could see a 10-point push. And all I would be looking for at this point for this to continue is just get over 54. And it's probably actionable. Again, I don't know what the demand is. I don't know why everyone's so giddy to own this, but they want in. And you're seeing a ton of buying. So I'd keep this in mind for sure. GT, Goodyear Tire was asked to cover. It's interesting because Goodyear Tire was dropping as oil was going down. And Goodyear, 2/3 of their cost to build a tire, I don't know if you know this, is oil. So that never really makes sense to me, right? So, and this is kind of interesting. Look at the dot today, how we're going up, and energy's going up. It doesn't make any sense. But it's that kind of market. Why would Goodyear Tire drop at the same kind of trajectory as its largest cost? It's usually inverse. So, but if you look at this, let me just show you this. So that's your first level, right? That's the first thing you're looking for, 1480. You need to stay above that. Now you have this little morning star pattern right here. So that should get us up to this 15. The question really becomes, did we bottom? Because if you bottomed, then you just buy this and you just kind of sit with it, right? Like this is not something that's going to run away from you. But you're going to have to look at a couple other levels here, right? Because there are a couple levels that are pretty substantial. So let's just go through them and take a look at them. So you have this 1459 level. You've hit that, undercut it, bounced over it, and bounced off of this. So this could mean that you are forming a bottom. That could be happening. And you are near the 200-day, right? So now the question is, what do we really need? Well, the very first thing you need to see if you've actually forming that bottom, and if that's a confirmed double bottom, is you have to get over this. So you're really looking, I'm sorry, let me draw that way better than I just did. So you really need to get over that 1719. So I don't know if someone's going to want to wait for that or not, but it's definitely something to consider. Now, if you look at this, okay, you can see how you're playing with this line, right? So here's your trend line. Look how you tried to, you opened above it, tested it, and then ran, gapped below it, and now you're trying to get above it, and you just stop. So sometimes it helps to look at these lines. So this is pretty simple, right? What I would look for a move before I did anything on this would be to get me above this level, 15, 14. And then where does that really get me in regards to the indexes? It gets me very close to being above that 200-day moving average. So at least get above 15, 14 before acting on it. So Netflix did what Netflix needed to do today. And, you know, I'm going to look to see how we do tomorrow, but it did everything that it needed to do today. And that would mean that, and I didn't plan on covering this, but that would mean that this is getting ready to move. Hold on one second. Look at this tomorrow. This was the last pin in this that needed to move, really, was Netflix. This is the FANG sector, you know, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google. It's 3X ETF. It's an easy way to play all those instead of buying stocks that are worth, you know, 1,000 shares, $1,000 a share, $2,000 a share, et cetera, et cetera. So keep this in mind, but look at this. Okay, we've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this for a year, since the beginning of the year. And it's finally here. Now, I don't know if we have earnings coming out soon. No, we have plenty of time. That's exactly what you're looking for. And really, what you were looking for today was getting above that 551.40. I just had too much on my plate today with semiconductor moves to really pay attention to this. But it's definitely something that you should be looking at now. I mean, it's pretty much through that level. And now that you're through that level, this becomes a what? Becomes a support level, right? And look at this. This is exactly what you want to see. I don't need the 5. I think it just gets too junky looking in there with all of them. But see how they're spreading? See how the 21's crossing the 50, right? See the 200? See how the 200, right, crossed, or the 50 crossed the 200 to the upside? For those that know, what is that called? It's called a golden cross. You need to pay attention to when that happens. It's actually very important, and it's very rare that it happens, right? Here's a death cross. You can see how you stayed down, and now you have this. So you're getting signals to buy this. Now, some can argue, and they could argue accurately, that, hey, you've been basing now for this period of time, right? Since last June. You've been basing for a year, and the answer is yes, you have. So the crossing of moving averages doesn't hold the same validity, and that's a valid point. At some point, it's going to make a difference. Why do I think it's going to make a difference now versus not making a difference in here? Besides the experience of like watching things like this over, you know, long periods of time, see how tight this is getting, right? See that? You see, you have an asymmetrical wedge, meaning that the wedge lines are not the same. So I would argue that it's getting there, and that there is validity to it, and that you have broken, and that you should be paying attention to it. And you could also, someone could also have made the argument that now you have confirmation and you've gotten through one downward trend line already. So let me just show you that one, right? So you could argue that you got through this one, and it's not really there that you could see it, but so much here. You could argue that we tried to get through it once and we're unable to, therefore this line is there because we're hitting here. Here we tried to get to it, failed, opened on it here, closed over here. So you could make the argument that you're getting through higher downward trend lines. To me, I'm just going to stick with the one that is glaring, right? This is glaring. You're through it. It's a wrap. I mean, there's a trade here. The question is whether or not you want to execute the trade or not. So it's definitely on my radar, but I'm all over these, as people are aware. So for those that are in the community, you know, I came out with this on Thursday. We did a day trade, I think 188, 189. All the trades start blurring together. But I was pretty clear on this. I'm just going to cover this for everybody. So, you know, when we broke 203, that's when we said, okay, start looking at this again. At the end of the day, we put a ton of calls on it, right? And that played out fairly nice today. And then I suggested maybe just taking the profit in them because we were up over 300%, just roll them up. Whether you do that or you don't do that, you know, obviously everyone has to make their own decision. I just want to point this out. Like, this is setting up to be our Tesla of 2021. I mean, I almost hate saying it, but the trajectory that we're setting up for here, like this is the first one, and that's 250. And I think we're going to get there fairly quickly. And you're starting to see more interest come into these names. You're starting to see that happen. And as that takes place, we're going to be in good shape. So 208.75, we broke through and we went. 203 and 209 were both entry points. Obviously, the stop will move up. I think that the stop really should be this bar. And I think you need to understand this bar, right? So the first bar on Friday was open was what? The low. Close was what? The high. Doesn't get much better than that, does it? Okay. What is today? Open was the low. Close was the high. How are we doing volume-wise? Okay. So in the past, how many days? Right. This day was 75 million. The other day was 67 million. Today was 57 million. I mean, you're trading almost 200 million shares in a short period of time. So somebody's buying it. So I really think that what you need to do is watch this. But I do think you're getting up to that level. If I hit a higher high tomorrow, I mean, I added to the position today. Hopefully that was clear when I was explaining to everybody how to roll them up, or just hold on to them and just keep moving the stop up. Look, this looks like it's going to keep going. And until I see signs differently, I would strongly recommend that you look at this one. To say the least. So PANW I want to cover because this one is definitely going to have a lot of action in it tomorrow. And this is the kind of move that you really want to see. This is really what earnings are all about. Like these are just like the cool days to like watch these stocks. I get all nerdy because I love this stuff. But like when you start doing this, you start breaking out like this here. Let's get rid of all these. They all look awful. And let's move this one up to here, just so you can see what's going on. So this is earnings, and this is what I'm doing. And the conference call is over by the time I filmed this, and it's one of the reasons why I was a little late. I wanted to listen to some of it. They just crushed on every single metric. I mean, there's not much more to say. And what you're looking at is you're looking at the first day of a breakout of this base. Okay, so I have a 7-8 month base, and I'm just starting to break out. You want to see something like just absolutely insane? Just to kind of put this in perspective, that's your first, right? And I could draw this just a little bit better, can't I? Right there. So that's your first trend line. Okay, so that's a 5 handle. Okay, 550. So this kind of gives you an understanding of when people are like, well, where could it go to? Right? Like that, like people thinking like that's a limiting belief. You have to not think that way, right? You don't know where it's going to go to. None of us know where it's going to go to. We're all guessing. But what we're trying to do is use past experience to figure it out. So, but getting to that level, I think you could really rip. I really do. Getting through this, I think that this could go. And I just, I'll throw out the caveat that I did add to this or did start a position in this today after hours. I just think it has a lot of potential. RBLX, I got asked a lot about, and it's one where I'll spend a couple minutes on because there's one definitive thing that this has done that it needed to do, and it did it today. And I'll just point out both of them. Okay, so here's the 50-day. Okay, here's your 8. Here's your 21. Right. So when was the last time that this was above all of those? Okay, it was back here. So this hasn't happened for 2 months, what transpired today. Now, on top of that, you've been respecting the 50 the whole way down. So just to clean this up so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, let's get rid of all of them except the 50. So right, it was support, then it flipped to what? Resistance, then bonk, 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 couldn't do it, boom, does it. Rips. Not only does it get over that, but look what else it does. See that high of the long, nasty red bar? You got over that, didn't you? So let's just close this for a moment. And I know I'm spending a lot of time going through detail tonight, but there's a lot of detail to go over today. So, but look at this. Look at this. You got right over that, 84.81. So now you're over that red bar. So guess what's not charging anymore? That red bar. So for those that are looking at this, this could go. Okay. I think there's much better opportunities out there, but this would be exactly what I would be looking for. That would be my first move. Get me through this line, which probably is like 85 and a quarter. Now it's 86. So show me 86, and then the first resistance point should be the top of this wick, which should be right there, about 87 and a half. See how it acts there. If it doesn't, comes back down, then you have your answer. So Roku, we keep talking about, we keep looking at. I drew this trajectory so that we could kind of get an understanding of what was going on there from before. I've been watching it all day. Love the stock, love the name, but I just don't see it yet. So let me close this and close this, but I just don't see it yet. So get me over the 200 maybe. You know, this doesn't go away in a day. The 21 crossing the 50 just doesn't go away in a day. So we're really gonna have to wait and see how that plays out. So SC did exactly what we thought it would do. We talked about this today, in the community, and I just want to go through this. You really need to understand the games that these people play, because they do play games, and that's exactly what happened to us, right? I mean, exactly what happened to us. So here's the 23rd, okay, and here's where they stop out people at the end of the day, right? Hold on, let me find it. Right. So this is where they start stopping people out, right? Right at the very end of the day. So, and now what happens? You come in, you gap down, you clean everybody out, right? And now you wind up closing at the high of the day. So for those that are still in there, congratulations, stay in the trade. And now you can know exactly where you're at. You're at the low here as your stop. Right? If you break that low, that should be your stop now. But if you're in this still, congratulations. I think you're going to base here, form this wedge, and then break out and reclaim this level. And there is huge upside in this up to here. I think you can get up in the 4s. So Tesla, Tesla's been acting, pretty wonky, but the one definitive thing it's been doing is refusing to close below the 50 and the 200-day for a long period of time. You had to do it a couple times here. Let's get rid of the fib levels. We really don't need them. So what you've been doing here is you've been bouncing, running, bouncing, right? Trying to get through, can't, trying to get through, can't, boom, goes. So at the end of the day, what do you do about something like this? Well, pretty clean, just to put it in perspective. We got the move that we were looking for today when we were discussing it, right? So the one level that we kept talking about, saying it's got to get through this level, it's got to get through this level, and let's just mark it off, 697.62. We talked about it over and over again. It's really important that you set your levels properly and that you set alarms so that when something goes off, you don't even think, you just act, right? 697.62, bonk, can't get to it, bonk, breaks it, bonk. What do we do today? Get through it. What happens when you get through it? You went up 10 points, right? So you could say, oh, I bought it here. That's fine. You can buy it wherever you want. I'm just giving you an example of how to do a trade and how to think about that trade, right? How to think about it. Maybe just think about your trades a little differently, trade a little differently. If you look at these lines, they mean something. And what they mean is this is where somebody is willing to buy and this is where somebody is willing to sell. And whoever settles that up wins. So in other words, if I had a guy up here that just kept wanting to sell, or a girl that just kept wanting to sell, versus somebody that finally acquiesced or ran out of their position, then here you are, right? And that's what you need to think about. So we are waiting for this to turn. And I did talk about this. You need to buy ugly, this is how you buy this stock. It's like Micron. You just buy it when it's ugly. The stock goes from, after earnings that were phenomenal earnings, in my opinion, goes from 122 all the way down. You have some geopolitical events that I won't bore you with that kind of start playing with the stock a little bit. We all wonder if we're ever going to see a semiconductor chip again. Okay, and so the stock gets hit. Now look at us, right? 107.84, 107.84, 107.84. Here we go. So while this might not be ready for prime time to start breaking out like the, the ASML that we bought today, and let me just show you that trade real quick. So just think about this. If you're not in this, take a look at it, right? It's not that far off. I mean, it's an $800 stock, and it's not that far off yet, but this has potential up to here. But just to go through it, this is not how you buy this one. You buy this when it looks ugly, and right now it looks ugly. So you want to buy it here, get into it, and then start seeing how it reacts up here. But that at least gets you up 5-6 points before you have to make a decision on what to do. So that's what I like about it. UPST, for those that get the newsletter, and there is a free version of the newsletter that comes out weekly that is, there'll be in the description. There'll be a spot for it in the description tonight. So let's just talk about this. I know a lot of people are looking at this 8-day on it, and some people look at the 10. I don't really care. The 10 EMA versus the 8, everyone has different ways they look at it. The bottom line is you're basically looking at, a very small discrepancy, but you can see how it's here, right? And you have to use what you're comfortable using. Don't just use a moving average because like someone else uses something. Like don't just use the 8-day simple moving average because I do, right? It has to have validity to you. We all trade differently. So see how you're forming that wedge here? See how you're boxed in here? Just flip. Just flip, man. Just flip right over that. And as soon as you do, you're going to rip right through this, I think. I would find it very hard to think that you're going to form a crown pattern right under this and then not rip. I have a really hard time believing that. So it should give us what we need. It acted great today for the people that are in there on the long term. And let's see how it acts. But it did not break. And since it did not break, we're in there. ZIM. So ZIM, what you're seeing here is me with 400 lines on a chart. So let's clean it up. Let's put the big one that's the most important. Why is this the most important? This is the long red nasty bar that's in charge. That's where we formed the evening star. And when did we form the evening star? On the day of earnings. And let me just point this out because this is very important. We earned 349 the first quarter, 513, 738. What's happening to volume? Why this is going along? Volume's increasing, okay? People are getting the story more and more and realizing the earnings and the capacity, and the market is a discounting mechanism. So you're going to have funds that are going to want to buy this because they're going to want to buy the explosive growth, okay? Get through this 49.90 level is really your move right now. There was a trade there today, and congratulations to those that took it, but this is just beginning, okay? There's a whole move here. That you need to look at, a whole move here that this can get really up into the 7s. So I would strongly tell people that you should probably go out there, hit your little create an alert button and set one. So that's it. That's it for the night. And if you have questions, please reach out and email me or comment in the questions because I answer, or in the video because I answer every single one. And let me know which one of these you like the most. At the end of this video, I am going to link that top 10 video in here several places, especially at the end. I would strongly recommend that you start watching these top 10 videos. Some of the stocks that were in that, on Saturday, just to kind of go through it. I do it every single week, so you can go look at the performance. DOC was up 14% today. PWSC was up 4% today. PYCR was up 5.68% today. NVIDIA was up 5.5%. It's not a bad place to start your week. So that's it, everyone. Have a great night and reach out as always.